Welcome to episode 1 of the GymMyth.com podcast. I am your host, Corbin Thomas. Today's guest is Relentless Roger Dickerman of RelentlessRoger.com. Check out GymMyth.com for show notes and leave a comment if you have any questions for us. Also, leave us a review on iTunes. Check out our Facebook page, GymMyth.com, and follow me on Twitter @TheRealCorbin. Now let's hear what Roger has to say.
As a weight loss mechanism, it's ludicrous.
Shut up and sit down.
Today we have Roger Dickerman, also known as Relentless Roger, and he's going to be on the show to talk to us about how not to smash your face. How are you doing today, Roger?
I'm doing great. No face smashes as of yet today, but there's still time.
There's still time? That was a pretty good video. I'll have to link that back into the show notes so people can understand what we're talking about.
Sounds good. It was a smash your scale challenge where I ended up smashing my face, and I'll just leave the teaser there and people can watch.
They'll have to. I watched it probably 7 or 8 different times, and I laugh every time.
And you memed it as well, I think.
I memed it. My kids love it. My wife loves it. So it's a good fun time for all.
Hey, if I'm famous for nothing else, I can live with that.
Excellent. Well, I guess let's give everybody a nickel tour of who you are, how you got into being a personal trainer, a nutrition freak, and living in Philly.
Oof, that's a lot to unpack. So let's take Philly first. I've always been Philly or the suburbs of Philly. I grew up in Lower Bucks County, went to college at Drexel in the city, and really stayed ever since. To unpack the rest, I have an unorthodox background. I'm not your lifelong athlete. I'm not your lifelong guy who knew he wanted to be in exercise science from the very beginning. So my journey to nutshell it is pretty much I grew up slightly chubby, self-conscious to take my shirt off at the pool, really unaware that I could change my reality. And then it wasn't until college that I started to realize, if I alter what I'm eating, or if I alter the way I move, or specifically I got a fourth floor sweltering apartment education in weightlifting from a really good guy who I've become good friends with in Philadelphia. But those kinds of things opened my eyes to what I currently do. So while I was diving down that rabbit hole, I was getting into Wall Street and finance and those kinds of things. And I spent a couple of years there before I 180'd, hopped out. I say all the time it was a stupid, naive, youthful decision at the time, but it's since worked out because I've got to do what I really like to do.
So it seems like you're following your passion.
Yeah, it's that, but not in the cliched sense. You don't just follow your passion and it all works out from square one. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of sweat, sometimes failure, to end up where you want to be in conjunction with your passion.
I hear you. So you found the health and nutrition and fitness in college. Did what kind of diet did you eat? Was it low fat, low carb, low calorie, or were you just eating cleaner foods?
Well, cleaner foods, I would say yes. But let's qualify that because it certainly was nothing like what I eat today. It was super low fat. Actually, I don't know if you're familiar with Body for Life, but at the time, Body for Life was led by Bill Phillips. I took on that challenge, and I lost a significant amount of weight. I think I lost like 35, 40 pounds at the time.
Oh, nice.
Felt great, but it was not a sustainable way of eating.
I tried Body for Life a couple times, and the highlight of my week was the cheat day Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great way to introduce people to working out 6 days a week and eating healthier. But like you said, it's not sustainable. Just kind of a quick little tidbit on my first Sunday where we had our cheat meal. I think I ate like 16 donuts or some ungodly amount of donuts. I ate everything in the world I could find. And funny enough, I lost weight the next morning. I was down about 3 pounds. I was feeling great, but it took my stomach about 4 days to recover from that binge.
Absolutely. It's funny you say that. I actually, with perspective and with age and experience, I really try to back people off from the mega cheat meals because, like you, I went through that same thing. I did it with Body for Life. I carried that mentality forward, and then I really blew that mentality out when I started to follow Tim Ferriss and some of the stuff that he was doing, where he obviously recommended the cheat meal or the cheat day.
Right.
I just find that it really skews your mentality when it comes to food, and overdoing it, like you said, where you may get the physical results, you may keep losing weight or keep the weight off. You can definitely do it from that perspective, but from another perspective, your digestion doesn't recover for days, and I just can't imagine long term it does much good for you and for your body. I think there's more to consider there. So I'm more of an advocate of treating yourself from time to time, but doing it in a reasonable sense, not one that literally screws you up for 4 days coming.
No, I agree with that. It's a great way for people to change their physique, but not necessarily stay healthy long term.
Absolutely.
And that's what everybody was after: quick weight loss, physique transformation, and unfortunately, most of those people that were grand champion winners are I would assume, and I'll have to go back and look, but are probably not ripped like they were.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot to stay in that condition.
It's the same thing like the Biggest Loser community. A lot of them rebound pretty significantly. So it's a whole different ball. When you approach things that aggressively, when you approach physique change that aggressively, you're almost, now I'm sure there are examples out there of people who have kept it going, but you're almost always looking at a significant rebound. Right.
No, I agree totally. So you mentioned your diet now. What are you eating now?
I think like a lot of us, I know you were involved in it for some time. I went paleo for a decent chunk of time, but I'm now, if anything, it's paleo-ish. I don't shy away from fat. I try to keep my macronutrients pretty well rounded. So macronutrients being fat, protein, carbohydrates. I think most of your listeners probably know that, but I try to keep them well-rounded. I don't shy away from any one of those groups. And I find that when I significantly shy away from any one of them, it comes back to haunt me. It comes back to me, in an overwhelming fashion. And that's where, if I shy away from carbohydrates for too long, that's where I want to have those epic mega cheat meals. But if I keep myself well-rounded enough, I actually don't find that I want to cheat or treat super hard. So that's just what works for me. I experimented for a while with intermittent fasting. Didn't work for me. It only works for me when I'm doing nothing. So in other words, if it's a lazy Sunday and I'm lying on the couch and just recovering in general, I can do it. But otherwise, if I'm active, I can't swing it. It destroys me. So generally eating well-rounded. I'm eating usually breakfast, lunch, a snack, and dinner. So 3.5 meals a day. And again, each one of them keeping pretty well-rounded. I'll only amp that up if I have a legendary workout. I'll eat a little bit extra after the workout, but I don't even go nuts with that anymore. So I'm kind of boring, Corbin.
No, I'm pretty boring too. I don't eat a lot of fat. I don't eat a lot of protein. I tend to stay more plant-based. I still eat meat. I still eat carcass, as I call it, but I keep it lower. I find that it helps my digestion. My joints feel better. I guess Dan French used to say, if I had he used to refer to me as the guy. How did he put it? If you have a diet, he will try it. I tried keto, thinking that was the miracle cure. Low carb, low fat, paleo, all these other things, and I finally found out that if you balance it like you're talking about and eat more whole real foods, less processed foods, that you'll feel better. It may not be sexy, it may not be cool, and you may not end up on some of these crazy podcasts, but it makes you feel better. And if you're doing it for weight loss, that's how you maintain weight loss. You're not going to lose 10 pounds a week. You're going to lose 1, maybe less than 1 pound a week, but you're going to keep it off, and you'll be a lot healthier in the process. Because what's the word I'm looking for? Like we discussed earlier, there's a difference between physique and health. I'm going more for longevity than I am about physique. If I have a 6-pack abs, great. If I don't, great. But I want to feel good when I'm 70, feel good when I'm 80 or even 90.
Absolutely. And another thing about physique change, I often go through this thought exercise with some clients of mine. And I say, do you want it all? Do you want the world? Do you want to climb Mount Everest in 12 weeks and then fall off of it? And sometimes fall off of it and end up in a worse place than when you started? Or do you want to work solidly, sustainably, moderately for a year and end up in a much better physical position than you are today and be able to live with that, sustain it, and better it over the course of the next year. I think that those two things are, granted, there are a lot of, these aren't the only extremes in existence, but these are two realities that you see people walk down these paths time and time and time again. And it troubles me to no end to see someone who is super passionate about being healthy, super passionate about changing their body, but they're doing it in a way where I'm cringing and I almost know it's going to end badly.
Do you find most of your clients follow your advice, or do they tend to just take it, push it to the side, and do what mainstream tells them to do?
It depends. And I think I end up working with those who take the advice. It doesn't have to be 100% my advice, but I tend to stick, longevity wise with those clients who are truly interested in bettering their health, taking those kinds of actions. They're not perfect. I'm not perfect. I don't ask them to be perfect, but they're not repeating the same mistake over and over and over again and bemoaning their fate all along the way, because nothing frustrates me more than that combination where someone is, I tell people sometimes, and myself sometimes, you can't complain about something that you're actively choosing to do day in, day out. You either embrace it as your reality and continue your action pattern, or you work to change your action pattern to change your reality. It's kind of one of the two. If you're not going to do it, no big deal. I'm not going to put my judgy pants on. Like you have every right to choose whatever physical reality you want, whatever business reality you want, whatever general reality for life that you want. You have every right to choose it, but don't complain about it if you're sabotaging yourself along the way.
Do you find that most of your clients, they get on board with that? Because I know that I'm not a trainer. I've worked with some people, and they tend to, I call it the Dr. Oz syndrome. Dr. Oz will come on and say, eat bread with olive oil. And the next day, well, no, don't eat bread with olive oil, eat it with coconut oil. Oh, no, don't eat bread, eat cookies with coconut oil. So he keeps changing to get people to keep buying products. Most people that I've seen and worked with they're almost like the get rich quick people. I want it now. I don't want to, I'll deal with it later. If I'm 60 and I feel bad, then I'll find a miracle cure then. And that's kind of frustrating when you're in this business. I'm not in the business full time, but you are. It seems like it could be frustrating when you're putting so much of yourself out there to help these people to get them where they want to be, and they just don't take the advice and they don't listen and they just go off the deep end.
It starts with empathy. I think it starts with understanding why some people operate that way. I think it's easier to place the accountability externally, outside of yourself, rather than take that hard look at yourself and place the accountability square on your shoulders. I'm firmly of the belief that placing the accountability on yourself is the only productive way to live, even if there are factors out of your control. We all know we don't all start on a level genetic playing field. Some people have a huge genetic one up. Some people have huge genetic, 2 down. But you control what you can control and focus on that stuff. But the Dr. Oz thing, it's easy to rely on a magic pill. It's easy to rely on something external. It's easy to say, this is the new thing. You go all in down that road, then you find the next thing, you go all in down that road, and the next and the next and the next, where you kind of lose the forest for the trees and you just keep going from tree to tree to tree. But when that perspective shifts and when people really start breaking ground in terms of health, in terms of mindset, is when they shift from the external search for, the magic pills and, hey, I need to turn this on myself and I need to figure this stuff out and I need to do so in a sustainable way. I'll look no further than myself. I'll out myself in a business sense. I think there were a couple years in my life when I left finance and before I really started digging into the Relentless Fitness Studio with my partner and now fiance Marissa. I was doing that typical thing of reading the book after book after book after book after book, and it was, some of these books are incredibly valuable, but I was just using them as a way to feel satisfied, a way to feel that I'd done something. But I'm talking specifically about business development, professional development, self-improvement type books. It's a way to feel like you've done something when you haven't done anything. maybe you've learned a thing or two, but you're not practically putting these things into play. And I think you see the same thing in health and in fitness.
Absolutely. You see that a lot in colleges too, where you have people that are chasing multiple doctorates. They're always learning, but they're never taking what they learn and giving it to people. They're never teaching. So yeah, that's crazy. I'm the same way. I think everybody is that way at some point in their life.
Absolutely. And you either come out of it or you don't.
Right.
And you see some people sometimes in an older generation, because sometimes older generation didn't put a huge priority on health awareness, right? So now they're, the foods available are leading them down a pretty horrible path, but they're out there looking at the infomercials and saying, oh, that next thing up there is that I'm buying for $39.97 over the phone is that's what's going to do it for me, as opposed to looking at the patterns that they're falling into.
Yeah. There's a lot of people getting rich off the seniors.
That's it.
For sure. Well, speaking of consistency and hard work, talk to me about this push-up challenge that's on the front page of your website.
Yeah, so it's actually pretty timely that you mentioned that, because this is the 7th week of a 52-week challenge. And
wow.
A lot of times when you get into the week 7 timeline, you're either falling off or it's becoming something that is sustainable. And I'm happy to say, as we're having this conversation, this is probably the personal fitness thing I've done in the last year that I'm happiest with. So it fits perfectly. It dovetails perfectly with what we were just talking about. It's do something that's sustainable. Do something that's not, putting yourself into overdrive for 12 weeks and then falling off a cliff. I just said, what do I want to improve about myself? I want to improve my chest and shoulder development. I feel like that's one of the weakest areas of my body. I'm very strong at pulls. I'm very strong at deadlifts. I'm very strong with all these kinds of things. I could use some work on my chest and shoulders. So that was the seed thought. And then I said, okay, well, what could I give to clients that would help them out with a problem area? What could I give to clients that they can incorporate into their road fitness, their vacation fitness, that wouldn't slack off no matter where they were? And that could be, that was achievable in a couple minutes a day. And that's what I came up with. I said, okay, I want to improve volume. I know that when I improve the volume of effort on my chest and shoulders will respond and they'll improve. There are a number of different ways to program for people, but one of the time-tested methods, as long as it's not overkilling it, is you slowly increase your volume, you're going to see some results. So I said, all right, I'm going to start with a number of push-ups. The push-up was the motion I chose for the chest and shoulder development. It was a motion that I've always been weak on. I've never been the guy that could do, 70 straight push-ups with perfect form. So I said, all right, I want to work on this motion. I'll do it with perfect form, and I'll choose a number that's attainable in a given day. So I chose the number 52.
Okay.
Not to do consecutively, not to do 52 push-ups in a row. That's not the idea of the challenge. In fact, that's kind of counterproductive. So I break it down into small sets of 5, sets of 10, sets of 20, maybe 25 tops. The goal is not to make myself excessively sore. So I had to choose a number that, again, was attainable for me so as not to feel torn up the next day. If I chose 500 push-ups within a given day, it would have backfired within a couple days, right? So I said, all right, 52. Then I'm going to do it 6 out of 7 days of the week. Always going to give myself that day to rest. And I'm going to do it for 48 out of 52 weeks of the year, giving myself 4 complete weeks to rest from the motion pattern. By the end of the year, I'll be able to do 100 push-ups a day, no problem, no sweat off my back, 6 out of the 7 days of the week. And I bet you I'll see some physical improvement from this process. 7 weeks in, I'm at the 58 push-up week. So I've gone from 52. Oh, and by the way, each week I tack on a push-up a day. So okay. Week 1 was 52 push-ups a day, 6 out of the 7 days of the week. Week 2 was 53, et cetera, et cetera. I'm on 58 right now. I found that I've connected with the push-up a lot better, a lot more confident in the push-up motion in general. And I'm finding that my chest and shoulders are developing somewhat as a result of the effort. I'm never excessively sore. I never feel torn up. It's just been a nice little thing that hums along in the background. It takes me a minute a day, depending on how I break it up. And yeah, I'm very pleased.
Excellent. Have you seen any development yet from in the last 7 weeks?
Yes. Now,
okay.
Have I, unfortunately, I decided not to go down metric road. I decided not to necessarily do the chest measurement and et cetera, et cetera. I wanted this to just be something that was in the background, that almost, didn't take up a lot of my focus. I didn't stress about. I didn't concern myself overly with it. And it stayed there. It stayed in the background, but I've done it every day, 6 out of 7 days a week, no exceptions. And I have no reason to think that will change over the course of this year.
So you didn't take the measurements. You didn't take 19 photos of yourself from different angles, different lights, and you're not posting chest selfies every day?
I am not. All I would do is I would post that article on my blog. I would talk about it whenever a conversation like this came up. And if it started to rear its head as something that was working for me, I would share it with my clients. And I'm now at that stage where I'm starting to have a lot of conversations with those people that I think could improve something and say, you really need to consider this. It's very easy to do on a daily basis. And a lot of times simple challenges like that have far-reaching effects. If you get the ball rolling and you prove to yourself that you can be consistent on that, you give yourself, a lot of people refer to it as small wins. If you give yourself those small wins, you're going to find that it has far-reaching consequences, and I mean consequences in a good way, in some different health areas.
And the good thing about that challenge is it's long term. It's going to build some character, and it's going to build that. It's going to help you achieve other goals in your life too.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more.
I did the 10,000 swings in 30 days, which is approximately 333 swings with a 53-pound kettlebell, Dan John style.
That's significant.
And, I had great forearms, a great posterior chain, but it took me almost a month to recover from that. That's a lot of work, and there was no recovery. It was day in, day out. And I learned a lot about myself. I was able to increase my cardio, burn some fat, and become stronger mentally. But I didn't want to work out for a month. I didn't want to lift anything. I didn't want to run. It just wiped me out. But it was a good challenge.
Did you rip your hands up?
Oh yeah. I did this challenge probably a year and a half ago. There's some pretty good photos out there of big sores and blisters all over my fingers.
Oh yeah.
I think at the end I had socks on my hands with the fingers cut out so I could finish. It was pretty rough, but it built character, and it was a good challenge. I'll never do it again.
Yeah.
But I still like to swing the kettlebell, just not 300 times a day.
Absolutely, and that's just as valuable. I mean, it sounds like you really took something away from it. You took away that character development, while also you took away the fact that you never want to do it again.
Yeah, I love challenges like that, just these brutal, beat yourself up challenges. But getting older, I want to do them, but my body's like, no, you need more rest. You need to back off.
Yeah.
So speaking of your push-up challenge, what other kind of workouts do you do, or what does your training look like day to day?
Yeah, I mean, typically what I do for myself is what I recommend outward, which I really try to follow that as much as possible, because I don't necessarily believe in recommending a lot of junk that you don't do yourself. So, I mean, my week starts with walking a lot. That's sort of the foundation to the house. Just walk some people throw out the 10,000 steps a day number. I think that's fabulous. It's a great starting line. Some people have difficulty approaching it, and if so, start at 7,000, 8,000, whatever. Just walk more. So that's big. I walk all over the city of Philadelphia. Rarely use the car unless we're hopping out of town. So that's the starting line. Past that, I do one duration run a week. So for me, duration does not mean half marathon. For me, duration means anywhere from 2.5 to 5 miles performed slowly. I'm not trying to exhaust myself. I'm just working up. I sweat a lot anyway. I'm just working up a nice little sweat. I can hold a conversation as I'm running if I chose to, and that's what's important to me during that run. Honestly, it makes me feel good. Past that, I do a sprint routine. I change the mode every week. Not religiously. If I feel like doing running sprints for 4 weeks in a row, I'll do it. But generally speaking, I go from running to rowing to strength sprints sometimes. I just change that stuff up a lot, but I'll get one sprint in. And then I layer in strength in a number of different ways. Some weeks that I'm super busy, I will do micro strength workouts. And by micro strength, it might be 5 minutes. It might be 10 minutes. I might just pair up pull-ups and deadlifts and just hammer them for 10 minutes and then get the heck out of there. If I have a light week and I have more time to devote, that's where you might see me work out 40, 50 minutes in a row, that rock solid total body strength workout with a finisher at the end, something along those lines. So the strength is super flexible for me. It just depends on what else I have going on that week. But I'm always including in some capacity a pull up or a chin up, a deadlift. A trap bar is my favorite way to execute that. I'm always doing some sort of pushing motion, whether that be an overhead press, whether that be a chest press, now that I'm doing those push-ups, I do a little less of those because I'm already getting the volume in. And I'll get a squat or a lunge type motion. I mean, you'll always see me do that collection of moves in some fashion in a given week.
So pretty classic push-pull leg.
Yeah, I look at it as push-pull up, push-pull down. So,
Okay.
push-pull up being your push-up, your overhead press, your pull-up being your pull-up or chin-up or your row, and then on the lower body, your pull being your deadlift, your push being your squat or your lunge. That's kind of how I'm breaking it down.
I can see you doing some sumo deadlift high pulls with chains or bands. That's what I'm picturing.
Oh, yeah? All right.
One of those crazy CrossFit movements.
Nice.
So please tell me one of your runs is up those stairs and you've got your fist pumping in the air, Rocky style.
Always.
Excellent.
That's so my one of my favorite places in this world for the last 15 years of my life, almost 15 years, not quite. My fortress of solitude, as I call it, is the top of the Art Museum stairs, which is the Rocky Stairs.
Okay.
I'll do workouts there. I'll take long walks there, and I'll end the long walk, above the stairs. There's this beautiful garden behind the Art Museum that you never really see in those Rocky shots. It is my favorite place, period.
Excellent. Yeah, that's one day when I get out there, and we've talked about me visiting out there. That's one of my goals. I don't know if I can run up the stairs, but I'll climb them slowly.
You will get the VIP treatment if you come to Philadelphia. We'll roll the red carpet out right up those stairs.
Excellent. I told my wife Tiffany that I was talking to you today. She goes, "Excellent. When are we going to Philly?" I'm like, "Well, let's put it on the agenda. It's been long enough."
There you go.
So we'll get to it probably next summer.
That sounds great.
Yeah, we spent some time in Cozumel this year in Baltimore, and our travel funds are depleted, so we've got to build those back up.
You can only do so much on a yearly basis, but make it count when you do.
Yeah, we'll be in Las Vegas in November for a conference, so it's been a crazy year for travel. We've been on planes and hotels and eating out, and that's the hard part, is the eating out. You just can't control anything.
Well, that's a whole nother level, right? I mean, I think there's one step where you get your home locked down. You understand how to navigate your home. You understand how to navigate your kitchen. You have a nice balance of occasionally doing something takeout or going out for a meal versus what you keep in. But then you go on the road and everything hits the fan. I think that's phase two. When you become a road warrior and you understand how to balance that, then you're dominating health.
We went to an all-inclusive in Cozumel, and I lost 3 pounds. But just for the simple fact of the quality of the food, we weren't eating processed foods. I ate a lot of sushi, a lot of vegetables, a lot of fresh fruit, and I was out in the sun all day. So you're not hungry all the time, so you're just kind of snacking here and there, and came away 3 pounds lighter, which I think is a win.
Of
coming
course.
from an all-inclusive. So
not many people are going to all-inclusives and coming back 3 pounds lighter.
No, I did drink my fair share of beer though, so maybe that's what I just wasn't hungry. Well, you talked earlier about going from the finance business into owning a studio. What is it like to own your own business? I know that a lot of people have these grand ideas, and I'm going to become a personal trainer. I'm going to be a trainer to the stars, and I'm going to get rich. What is your perspective on that? What's your take on that?
Owning your own business can be hell. I think Marissa, if Marissa was right here next to me, I think she'd be the first to say she didn't know what she was getting herself into. And we went through. I think I had, based on my finance career, I had a little bit more of an idea of what we were getting ourselves into, but it was hard, man. I mean, you're building some programs from scratch, and that's a struggle. That's a struggle from day one, because you have this confident idea of yourself. I am someone who should succeed. I am someone who should have an awesome, thriving business that's allowing me to live life the way I want to live it. but it just doesn't start that way. And you grind and you work hard, and that's where some people leave their businesses and lose their businesses because they don't get over that hump. But we ground for a number of years, and I would say somewhere around year 3, year 4, you start to get your head up out of the sand and you start, all right, now we've made it. A lot of people call it like the 3-year, I don't know, you cross that 3-year line, and now you're here to stay. And now we start to look at, okay, how can we optimize our lives around the business? Because, for a couple of years there, we're not doing much at all. We're not doing much fun stuff at all. We're not taking many vacations at all. Now we're able to take a couple trips a year, take the time for ourselves. We're just getting to that point where we can say, all right, now let's be healthy human beings as well as business owners.
Do you think the getting into paleo helped drive your business? Actually get you more business and get you out into that world where you're noticed more? Or did you find that you had that before paleo?
Yeah, you know what? I feel like I imposed paleo upon my business.
Okay.
And you saw some people run in the opposite direction, and then you saw some people embrace it, and I started to become known as like a paleo guy in Philadelphia. I've sort of shied away from that recently because I think that the word itself is taking on so many hybrid definitions that it's hard to even understand what it means anymore. So now I'm speaking in much plainer terms. I very rarely throw that word around. I'm much more often talking about what we're eating, that we're eating cleaner, not shying away from carbohydrates at all. Just again, focusing on that well-rounded approach. So no, I think I imposed it upon the business because at that moment in time when I think the paleo community was a lot smaller and there was a lot more of a unified definition of what it was, there were a lot less extremes within the community at that time. And I truly understood it to be the number one option for my personal health. I think where I steered myself a little wrong, and of course you steer your clients a little wrong at the same time, is when you start getting a little too far down the rabbit hole. You start playing too much in the extremes, and you start playing too much in the extremes to achieve short-term results. I'm proud to say I am firmly in a position of longevity, of long-term results for my clients. I will take that approach even if it means losing mass business. It's always easier to gain business when you're telling people you're going to get them XYZ results in this very short frame of time. Like my transformation program, it used to be, let's climb Mount Everest. Let's do this. Hoorah, let's go. Got amazing results, unbelievable results. Today in my transformation program, some people are disappointed because I'm not pushing them that hard. I'm not grinding them into dust to achieve the testimonial that says I lost 50 pounds through you. It's not what I want. I want people who I'm training 10 years later and who are consistently happy.
Yes. That's one of the hardest things to maintain. I imagine in a gym is keeping your membership up. And if people aren't seeing the results, you've got to get creative on how to keep keep members and lure in new ones.
The cool thing for me is that, my word of mouth is as someone who can take a look at the big picture and break it down for you and put strategies in place that you can operate on consistently. And that when you look back a year later, you're happy with how far you came. Now, will you lose someone who comes in and has, you can see that gleam in their eye and they want to drop the 30 pounds tomorrow? Yeah, you might. But I'm happy to show that person the door, and I'm happy to point that person in another direction, and not in a malicious way, and not in a bad way at all, not in a joking way. Like, you should go somewhere else. If you want that, if you want me to recommend to you the bodybuilder diet of, chicken and broccoli over and over and over again, to the point that, ignore the fact that you're hungry right now and, do these kinds of things. I mean, you're going to have to go somewhere else. And if that's what you want at this place and time, so be it. But I'm always going to recommend you eat relatively well-rounded. Now, of course, extenuating circumstances, personalization comes into play, what your likes and dislikes are, what is working for you, what's worked for you in the past. We obviously take all that stuff into consideration. But generally speaking, I'm going to recommend you eat well-rounded. I'm going to recommend you eat enough calorically. We're not going to drop that through the floor just in the name of results.
Absolutely. Didn't you have weren't you on a panel at Paleo Effects this past year about firing your clients?
Yeah, there's a little clip. I think it was, what was it? I forget what the panel was. I know Mark Sisson was on it that year. This is a couple years ago.
Oh, was it? Okay.
The mic was passed to me, and I said my piece about being willing to fire a client if it's the right situation. Just don't, sometimes it's like relationships. We all go through relationships before we find quote unquote the one. It's not a slight to the trainer, and it's not a slight to the client if the match doesn't work. It's okay. We all move on. So like within Relentless Fitness, which is our business, we have a staff of 10 plus coaches. And if someone needs to move to somebody else, we're open and we share clients. Sometimes a client splits their time between two trainers. Sometimes they change trainers over time. And then sometimes if the fit of the facility isn't right, they'll go somewhere else. And we're okay with it all. That's just our philosophy.
That's good. In most businesses, people are so scared to lose clients. They do things that are bad for the business. I see that a lot in the industry I'm in. We'll let a client walk all over us just because we don't want to lose the client. But sometimes you have to let that client go, and move on to bigger and better clients. And it's less stressful, and you don't have to worry about it. And it's firing the client is it's a good business practice when it's necessary.
It's funny when I first became a trainer, like year one, every time I was at a big gym. And every time I was doing an initial meeting or an initial consultation, I was so stressed about like making the sale. I just wanted this person to train with me so badly that you almost change who you are. You almost change how you have that conversation. Today, when someone walks in, I'm okay wherever the conversation goes. I'm okay if they walk out the door and never come back again, and I'm okay if they become a 20-year client. Obviously, I would love for them to become a 20-year client, but I'm okay. It's cool. All I want to do is I want to know who you are, where you came from, why you're here, what your goals are, and if I'm the guy who's going to get you there. Or if someone on my staff is the guy or gal who's going to get you there. I want to understand that and understand you, and whether there's a match to be made or not. And if there's not a match to be made, I'm going to let you know that, and I'm going to try to give you some parting advice as to where you might be able to find someone to help you.
That sounds like a great mission statement.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, just go ahead and write that up, put it on the front door. I'll take 10%.
You can have 20.
Excellent. You talked about your transformation that you do. You also have a book out there. Does your book go into the transformation? Does it have transformation success stories? I mean, tell me about your book.
Yeah, I wrote the book. This is what I always try to do. I try to always give the best advice that I have at that particular time. And I'm never afraid. Obviously, early in the conversation, I said there was a time in my career where I dove a little too far down the rabbit hole. I had to pull myself out a little bit. But
we all do.
That's who I am. You're always going to get that honest perspective. If I believe something different today than I did yesterday, you're going to be able to have a level-headed conversation with me about it, and I'm going to be willing to say, I think I was wrong, and here's why. I like my book. I just think I need to write a little bit of an update to it. I think it has a little bit too much of a low-carbohydrate slant to it, and I would change that just a tad. I think the heart is there. I think it says a lot of the right things. A lot of the preface is about the mindset behind eating, and I stand behind every word. The on the road eating, how to prepare for that, all these kinds of things. I'm all about it. Let's do it. I just think I need to write a little bit of an update to it. And as has happened in my world, owning the business, sometimes I devote less energy than I like to marketing what I do online, whether that be the book, whether that be the podcast. And I'm working to change that. I'm really working to hone in on what lights me up. And again, put my energy behind getting that out there to the populace. But that book is something that's been on the back burner, and it just sort of exists. So, it's called the Relentless Nutrition Action Plan. It's on Amazon. I think it's like $6.99 or something. Sales trickle in, and it just kind of sits out there, and it's got a bunch of 5-star reviews, which I'm super grateful for. But, my attention is not there right now, unfortunately.
It's been a couple years since I've read it. It was a good book. I enjoyed it, and it was common sense approach, if that makes any sense. This is what you need to do. This is how you're going to do it, and it makes it. It was a good book.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. I get that every now and again. And again, I'm always flattered and I'm always grateful to hear it. And I'm glad it's there. I really am. I'm glad I took the time to do it. You mentioned the character building from an intense challenge. Writing that book was an intense challenge because I took on the task of writing it in a short period of time. So every day I was waking up 2 hours early, 2 uninterrupted, pitch blackout hours to brew some coffee, sit down and do nothing but write. Didn't check any email, didn't do anything like that, just wrote. And I did that every single day for between 3 and 4 months.
Oh, wow.
And by the time it was over, it was a book. And I think I'm better for having gone through that because you believe in yourself. Hey, I can stay, even though it was, even though it was hell, even though I might not do it again the same way, right? I did it, and that's cool. There's something to be said for that.
Yeah, I've always wanted to write a book, but I really have nothing to say. So I guess that's...
You have plenty to say, man. Record enough of these podcasts, and you'll write something.
Hopefully we'll get about 5 or 10 of them, and then we'll write a book on them. So we talked about your book. You mentioned your podcast. I know that there's the Relentless Roger and the Caveman Doctor with Colin Champ, which I call him the pull-up stud of Paleo FX.
Yes.
I think, what did he knock out? 30 pull-ups and went and sat on a panel, didn't even break a sweat.
I think that's accurate.
Yeah, and the women love him, so we'll let that one go. Talk to me about your 3 podcasts. You've got the one we just mentioned, and you've got 2 more. Kind of give us a brief synopsis of them, and we'll link them to them in the show notes so people can check them out.
Podcasting is my passion. I think the 2 things that I've done in my career online that my heart and soul is fully invested in. I did a thing several years ago, actually about 5 years ago now, that actually was the way I met Keith Norris, which I know is a buddy of yours and who's a guy that I love to death. He's a great, great guy. I met him through Relentless TV, and I did 14 consecutive. It was a video show. I sunk so much time and energy with the help of my buddy Seth, who had worked for Relentless at the time. And it was so awesome. We had you'd love this. We had an intro song and scene sequence that led you up the rocky stairs. So that was a great start right there. But it was just a fitness show. And I wish that I had had more time on my hands to continue that, but it was eating up so much of my day that it just became unsustainable. So that ended. And then now just podcasting. I love to talk about timely stuff. I love to talk about stuff that's on my mind right now because I think that's how I can help the most people. So to give you the rundown, the oldest podcast, the podcast that's had the most listens and has the best following is Relentless Roger and the Caveman Doctor. That's with Dr. Colin Champ, my buddy who has since moved to Pittsburgh. And unfortunately, when he moved out of Philly to Pittsburgh, we started to lose our consistency of recording. We would do it. We had done it religiously once a week, and we just started to lose that. We lost the cadence. We had to shift to Skype instead of in person. And we've taken some pretty long breaks from releasing new episodes. Now, we did record an episode recently, so it is not dead. So the rumors are false. But that's podcast 1. 2, when we lost that cadence, I felt a hole in my life, right? I mentioned I'm passionate about podcasting. I like to do it. I like to talk about timely stuff. That's where Relentless came in. That's the new podcast. It's Relentless, real people getting real results in the real world. And that's my opportunity to talk to not just authorities, but I want to talk to clients. I want to talk to business CEOs. I want to talk to people involved in small businesses, people making realistic livings in reference to both, their professions and their health maintenance. That's the goal of that show. So we're 6 or 7 episodes in, and actually just before we're talking right now, it was on the Horn with my buddy Tony Federico, and he's going to be on the next episode of that. And that segues into what's the 3rd podcast. Sounds like a lot, but Tony Federico and I are doing a podcast on personal training and for personal trainers, because that's both of our core professions are personal trainer, and it's called Powerful Personal Trainer, and we're launching that, and we're going to be talking about that a lot more within the next month.
Is that one up on iTunes yet?
It is. We're in the process of shifting around the load. It's almost like we're trying not to pull eyes on it until like 2-3 weeks from now when we have all our ducks in a row.
Okay.
We do have a couple episodes up there. It is, you're able to listen to it. We're going to be changing that logo around and doing those kind of, the polish jobs, and then it'll be ready for consumption.
Excellent. Yeah, y'all have got two of the best nicknames, Relentless Roger and T-Fed.
T-Fed.
So,
Yeah.
T-Fed. Yeah, Tony's a great guy. He's over there at Paleo Magazine. He does that on the side too?
He's a contributor to Paleo Magazine, and he's the host of Paleo Magazine Radio. So
Okay.
he's actually, I believe, approaching 100 episodes on Paleo
Oh, wow.
Magazine. So somewhere along the way, he exceeded Relentless Roger and the Caveman Doctor. He left us in the dust.
It seems like he never sleeps.
He does a lot, that's for sure.
Excellent. Well, as I've been sitting here talking to you, I'm admiring your pink pop filter that you've got going there. It's very nice. We'll have to link a quick photo to that in the show notes.
So this is the first guest appearance with this pink pop filter. So I just got a new mic, and we're working out the kinks. This is literally its first go round. So if the sound is a little off, I will fix that in the future. But the pink pop filter, I ordered a black one, and I got this one, and I'm not going to do a darn thing about it. I'm just going to keep rocking it.
I like it. I think it looks good. I've got a yellow one myself, so don't feel too bad. Pink is the new black.
That's right.
Or is that orange is the new black? I don't remember. But excellent. Well, Roger's been great talking to you. It's been a couple years since I've seen you. Did you make it to Paleo Effects last year?
It's the only year that I will miss.
Yeah,
So,
I missed last year, or this year, I guess.
Yep.
I may be back next year. It just depends. I've got a lot going on in my life. I'm trying to, as you know, get this podcast rolling. But before we leave, a couple things. What is one of the myths that you hear all the time that you want to bust today, that you want to dispel?
One of the myths that I want to dispel. I mean, you know what? I'm going to take liberties with the question, but I'm going to
Okay.
speak somewhat passionately about it. I don't know that it's a myth. I imagine it works very well for some people. But for active individuals, I just believe low or no carbohydrate is a broken approach. It will shatter you. It will shatter you if you're a certain type of individual like myself, or like a lot of the people that I've worked with before who are generally active. I just think you need something a little more well-rounded. Doesn't mean you can't eat lower carbohydrate, but the extremes that I see people going in their everyday nutrition, I think will lead you consistently to those mega cheat days that we talked about before. I just think it's an unsustainable approach. So I don't know if that's a myth or not, but I will say from my personal and from my client experience that you just got to break out of that box.
It's funny you say that. I kind of stalk the keto groups on Facebook.
Oh man.
Because I love to see I like the questions, I like the answers, and everybody's a keto expert these days. I mean, if you really want a keto expert, you need to go talk to Jimmy Moore. I mean, that guy's done it all. But, you'll see someone say, oh, I can't get off the couch. I have no energy. My head hurts. I've been keto adapted for 6 weeks and I still feel like crap. Well, my advice, and I got kicked off one, was, eat some sweet potatoes. You
Yep.
need carbohydrates. But there's the dogma of keto is you don't have carbs, that all you need is meat and fat, and and you're going to live this grand happy life. But most of these people they're crashing. They're using massive amounts of coffee and butter in their coffee to just give themselves enough energy during the day, when they could just eat some sweet potatoes, a banana, some fruit, something to get at that natural pick me up.
Absolutely.
Speaking of that, I got to get your opinion. Butter coffee. Where do you stand?
I had my moment, man. It's enough already. I mean, it's fine. It's fine from time to time. The everyday stuff is ludicrous. Well, it depends how you use it, right? It depends how you use it. If you're someone who's not eating breakfast and is just slogging through your morning, then maybe it has absolute applications. So let me change the way I'm going to say this. As a weight loss mechanism, it's ludicrous. Because at the end of the day, you get sometimes too far down that low to no carb rabbit hole, like fat is good, fat is great, layer it on, let's get the butter going, let's get the bacon going, and it's almost like the butter or the coconut oil that I'm putting in my coffee is going to mean nothing. No, it's going to mean something. Oh, it's going to mean something. It's there.
It's, depending on how much you put in, that's 500 to 800 calories.
Yeah. So I think if you enjoy it, if you truly enjoy the taste, Can you work that into your everyday approach? Absolutely. You just need to compensate elsewhere. You can't just stack it on top of your existing nutrition plan as a weight loss mechanism, which is how I see some people talking about it. And I just don't like that connection.
So it's safe to say that we won't see any Relentless proof coffee coming out anytime soon?
No. And again, every now and again, like let's say, I'm a black coffee guy through and through, but let's say,
Yeah, me too.
I don't know. Let's say I'm feeling frisky one morning, and I want to pop a tab of a pat of grass-fed butter in a little like mini blender and get myself something delicious and frothy. Like, will I ever do that? Yeah, I may do that, but it's going to be few and far between, and it's going to be because I'm feeling frisky, not something I'm doing every day.
If I drink that, I would be frisky afterwards, and be, running somewhere to get rid of something. All right, well, it sounds great. Let's see. Where can the people find you? Social media, website, podcast? Give us some links.
Absolutely. So relentlessroger.com, I'm trying to make that the home for it all. So, I mean, if you just go to relentlessroger.com, you can get linked out to my Instagram, linked out to my Facebook. It's Relentless Roger on Facebook. That one's easier to remember. I think Instagram is IAM_relentless. I think all the Relentless Roger stuff was taken on there. So easiest place to go is just relentlessroger.com. That's going to get you everywhere. That's going to get you links out to all of the podcasts. If there's one thing, I mean, I'm very happy with the direction of, and I love if people check out one thing of mine, it's where I'm sinking a lot of the energy that's not running a business and coaching clients is being sunk into the Relentless podcast right now. So again, it's Relentless, real people, real results, real world. That's how to find it on iTunes. That's the one place where I'd really love people to check out, and not check out and like, if you don't like it, I want to hear about it, because I'm looking to sink a lot of energy into improving it. So if you want to hear about something different, if you think I should go somewhere different with the guests, if you really appreciated a gem in there, I want to know about all those things. So I would love a group workshop as to what you do like and what you don't like.
So this is a podcast where you're interviewing, are these your clients, or how do you find your guest?
Yeah, so it's a multi-format podcast. The idea is to do short formats that are just driven by myself, where I might pop on and talk about that very push-up challenge that we talked about earlier. I'll keep those short. I'll keep those snappy. I'll keep those full of quick takeaways. And then I do longer formats, and those are interviews. And I am trying to not do the merry-go-round of experts. I'm trying to mix up who's coming on. I'm mixing up people in the fitness world with people in the business world, because one of my things is mind, body, and business. I want to talk about all those things. So I'm mixing those things up, and I'm just mixing up the subject matter in general. I will not hesitate to talk to a client of mine, and I will not hesitate to reach out to Rob Wolf and invite him on. Those are the extremes that I'll go. I have a list of, once I develop a little more traction, get some more episodes under my belt, I want to reach out to some sports stars that inspire me and just start taking some shots there. And generally speaking, if somebody inspires me in any sense of the word, there's a good chance that I'll invite them on the podcast.
Excellent. I'll tell you one person that I've been inspired by is David Carter, the 300-pound vegan NFL lineman.
Uh-huh.
He was on Rich Roll podcast. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I am, yep.
But I listen to that podcast every once in a while, but I found him on there, and this is a guy that went against the conventional wisdom of, stuff your face full of everything so you can be a star lineman, went vegan. I mean, eats 10,000 calories a day of plant food, got rid of inflammation, lost weight, and then had to use the vegan diet to get back up to 300 pounds. He said he was down to like 260 or 270. So that's inspiration right there for me. Not that I'll ever go vegan, but it's interesting that, he didn't quit whenever he started losing weight. He stuck with it because he believed in it, and he kept that consistency, and he kept that dedication, and he stayed motivated.
I love it.
It's very, very inspiring. But you ought to check it out, 300poundvegan.com, I guess.
And you said he was on the Rich Roll podcast recently?
He was on the Rich Roll podcast recently. That's where I heard him.
Great.
Yeah, I think he'd be someone, hopefully if I get enough of these under my belt too, I'll try to get him on too. But, these will be kind of like yours. Just, I want to talk to real people, some experts, some not, some people that have overcome, adversity through health, fitness, wellness, whatever, and are staying motivated and staying consistent with what they're choosing to do.
Absolutely. So it's what it's all about, having great conversations and I don't know. I'm a big fan of those formats that are more conversational versus structured. I think I love a polished show. I think a lot of work obviously goes into polished shows behind the scenes, but the real conversations are where I take the applicable gems to my everyday life out of. So I appreciate you doing this.
No, I appreciate you coming on. And before I let you go, I just lost my train of thought. I'll figure it out later.
That's all right.
I'm gonna go ahead and cut this recording off real quick because my battery's going dead.
Okay.
Royalty-free music provided by BenCloud.com.